Distinguished audience, I feel very honored to be invited and speak next to such venerable advocates of religious freedom. My sentiments of gratitude go to Dr. Ganun Diop, to Dr. Nelu Burcha, to Dr. Dwayne Leslie, Mrs. Bettina Krause, Mrs. Gail Banner, and to all involved in organizing and funding this magnificent event. So thank you all very much. For the West, Orthodox Christianity may not be of any particular interest, but for us, it is different. Just think of Russia or Syria, just think of Egypt or Kosovo, just think of the Holy Land. In each of these places, Orthodox Christianity had been an engine of history, culture, and civilization as much as a product of it. While branded as men in black with long and bushy beards, in the face of an Orthodox Christian, we actually see the typical face of an East European. We see the typical face of a Russian. We see the typical face of an Ethiopian. We see the face of an Indian, an Alaskan, and a Japanese. We see the face of an Egyptian, the face of a Jew, and the face of an Arab. We see the face of a woman. We see the face of a child. We see a human being bearing the divine imprint and wishing to be free. Our past is a mixed record of enlightenment and darkness. When we felt powerful, we were brutal. When we were weak, we chose to be martyrs. We blessed the brutality of tyrants and contradicted our own teachings in the way we behaved. Today, in my church, we have saints and sinners. We have robbers and Samaritans. We have heroes and cowards. In the United States, where I live, we are the third richest religious minority and perhaps one of the least generous. We have bishops who advocate the protection of the environment. We have bishops who bless weapons of mass destruction, weapons ready to destroy our planet, the only temporary home God gave us. It is from this particular vantage point that we are like everyone else. We are creators and destroyers. We imprison and liberate. We have gulags and pogroms, and we often become prisoners of our own ignorance. But what does freedom mean to us? David Little, one of my beloved teachers from Harvard, often asks me why the Orthodox don't rise against injustice. I don't have a biological answer. The genes behind the Stockholm Syndrome have yet to be identified. However, as a cradle Orthodox, growing up in Ceausescu's Romania, I suspect that a few answers may be found in the way we create meaning. First, in the Orthodox Church, we recreate meaning every day as we venerate men and women of the past, men and women whom we consider saints. Beyond doctrinal rationals, we consider them saints because of their unconditional obedience and because of their non-retaliation in face of oppression. These are pious saints and martyr saints. These are our models that define the meaning and the purpose of life. Their vision of life and the way they live their lives is rehearsed every day through ritual, and it is deeply imprinted upon our psyche. The emotional effect of social obedience derived from daily veneration of pious and martyr saints has yet to be analyzed by the social psychologists. We don't rise because our conditioning to obedience has inhibited any revolutionary spirit. We don't rise because we created a culture of condescension, which we keep defending through our behavior. The expected ritual interaction between a layman and a clergyman, such as the kissing of the hand of the clergyman and the bowing before anyone wearing a black robe, is the layman's self-condemnation to a status of inferiority. Through ritual, protocol, and the standard language, the layman continues to reaffirm his inferiority while proclaiming the superiority of the clergyman. Nevertheless, this behavior did not come out of the oblivion. The power distance we perpetuate is nothing but the results of the dependency of a path we took centuries ago. Our apparent indolence against injustice is nothing but the verdict of our complicated history. In our past, under the guise of evangelization, the bigger clans, nations, and empires had often abused the smaller ones and molested them into submission. Byzantine emperors became the godfathers of tribal chiefs only to control them better. The history of blood spilled between the members of the same faith makes the Orthodox world a typical example of a dysfunctional and murderous family. Because of this history, we created our own myths and legends of grandeur. This is why, when we face trouble, we hide in our imagined past. When our reality is polluted by misrepresentations or by reinterpretations of events from our distant past, all we care about is the protection of our symbols, the protection of our spiritual narratives, and the protection of our sacred chronicles. But why is the memory of the past so important to us? The ambience in which we remain and reimagine the past is our new religious narrative. Through memorial services, we remember parallel histories and heal the memories of the living. Through stories of superstition, we perpetuate fear. The collusion between fiction and reality transcends the figment of our imagination into the realm of the afterlife. The tension between the imagined religious ideal and the harshness of life made us comfortable with the spiritual paradox and with political antinomies between the kingdom of God and the kingdom of Caesar. In relation with the political power, the church was soft. In the relation with its members, the church was hard. To its members, the church glorified martyrdom in its rituals while blessing weapons and military campaigns. The church also remained relatively silent when its members faced abuse and persecution. Yet, within these political antinomies, the divine ideal maintained a status of primacy. The church never approved the believer to impose pain and suffering upon another human being, even in self-defense. At the same time, acting in the interest of the state, local bishops and synods of bishops offered their limited validation of self-defense under a strong conscience of guilt, seeing war as the lesser evil. To survive, the church had to resonate with the local political authorities and even follow their directives, with the understanding that these decisions were limited in time and space. In its local canonical tradition, the church is belligerent, more belligerent perhaps than its pan-Orthodox self-expression. This is why, as Orthodox Christians, we often fail to defend freedom, particularly when we act as a group. Within our Orthodox family, we hold personal biases against each other. We maintain a counterproductive organizational behavior. We face competition for personal glory. We face nationalism and xenophobia. Our theological arrogance in claiming the exclusive monopoly over religious truth made us feel privileged for short periods of time, often in our own ignorance. Is there any hope for change? As we know, cultural change is a slow process. In spite of all the lamentations I have listed, I have reasons to be optimistic because I see changes taking place. We live in open societies. We intermingle with the non-Orthodox. We are able to travel. We are able to migrate and experience what it means to be a religious minority elsewhere. And we also have a social media to monitor and hold accountable our own spiritual leaders when they misbehave. However, this is just the beginning. The effects of totalitarianism to which the Orthodox Church was subjected are still visible today. The Cold War mentality still exists. The complicated world we live in, the rise of the so-called religious terrorism, the rise of xenophobia, the rise of racism and of ethno-religious intolerance are obstacles we are facing in addition to our own efforts to deconstruct the damages created by our past. Therefore, we must not fail to maintain open borders. We must not give in to fear and to being manipulated by obscure interests. We must not retreat into nationalism, chauvinism, racism, and the politics of identity. We must prevent the creation of a new Cold War. May the Almighty bless us and help us continue the good work. Thank you.